Okay, so in this video, I'm going to talk about gender and how gender influences the socialization of children and the differences that are among society. So it's important to differentiate between the terms sex and gender. Sex is the biological status that is so basically when a child is born if they have male or female genitalia, whereas gender is the social categories of being male and female. So gender socialization, there's differences in how you socialize a child depending on whether the child is male or female. So, for example, girls are typically socialized in the household playing with other girls in activities such as house, while boys are generally outside getting dirty from playing sports or whatnot. So, these differences in socialization, whether male or female, really dictates the activities that are participated in. Girls are more seen to be housebound, like cleaning, like that type of job aspect, whereas boys are more outside, like getting dirty. So, gender socialization also differs from culture to culture. So, for instance, a tribe in Africa expects young boys to perform oral sex on older men to gain masculinity. In the United States, that would not be considered a way of socialization. That would be considered abuse or maltreatment. But in Africa, this is seen between from a boy going from being a boy to a man, and it's very important in the growing up of a child to have this transition. So, gender socialization also has different expectations of how males and females are socialized, and this puts a lot of pressure on the parents. So, for instance, parents will usually take their boys to football tryouts because girls are not supposed to play football as considered the norm. But parents will also buy certain toys depending on whether their child is a boy or a girl. So you see this when you walk into toy stores or the Target in the toy section. The girls section is very bright with pink and frilly and dolls, whereas the boys section is kind of darker and it's more action figure based. Um, and this is what creates these gender norms between children because if you have a boy that's buying toys from the girls section, he's gonna be bullied or teased when he's a child. So parents will usually try to steer them to fit in with the other children. And it's important to know that parents also start this socialization process before the child is even born. So when they find out they're having a boy and they have a gender reveal party, typically the balloons and decorations will be blue. The mom will wear a blue type of color. The toys that she gets, the clothes that she receives as gifts, they're all boy geared versus having the neutral aspect of it. And even after the child is born, the mom will usually dress the child in either blue for boy or pink for girl or purple for girl, some colors like that, so that the public knows whether the child is a boy or a girl. And parents just are unaware of that these gender norms and trends still exist because it's just a habit for them and how they grew up. So you have a social cognitive theory of gender. And it's basically saying that children and adolescent gender development is influenced by their observation and imitation of others' gender behavior as well as the rewards and punishments they experience for gender appropriate and inappropriate. So basically, children are very observant and they grow based on their interactions with others. So if they are playing with, say, you have a girl and she's playing with other girls at her school and she wants to go play soccer with the boys. If she gets ridiculed by the other girls, she's not going to want to try those gender roles and she's not going to want to go to play with the boys and do what she wants to do because she wants to fit in with her friends. But that's also the same when at home with boys or girls. If they do something that is considered in their gender norm, parents will usually reward them. So if a boy wants to play with a doll, but he pulls up a truck instead and plays with the truck, the parents may reward him, be like, good job, trucks are for boys, not dolls. So this can be both influenced by their peers and their parents. So a few gender definitions that are important to note along with sex and gender. is that gender identity is a person's internal and personal sense of being a man or a woman. So this is not referring to sex at all. And you have the gender schema theory, which is like the mental structure for organizing and interpreting information. And lastly, you have self-socialization. So children seek to maintain consistency between the norms they have learned about gender and their behavior. So that self-socialization very much intertwines with the social cognitive theory of gender, just because children want to fit in, they want to maintain these roles so that way they don't get bullied or ridiculed, punished for certain behaviors. And so they learn at a very young age that they're a boy and boys do certain things, or they're a girl and girls do certain things. So these gender differences can create these activities can mark border work. So basically, it strengthens the boundaries between groups, and maintain these borders of what girls do and what boys do. And there are 5 different types that we're going to go into. So the first one is same-sex chasing. And based on the gender, the chasing ends very differently. So boys are more rough usually, so it'll end in tackling or wrestling, whereas girls, they kind of just chase each other. They don't really physically interact. Then you have rituals of pollution. So these are play routines in which specific individuals are treated as contaminated. One important thing, an example of this, is when girls have cooties, and boys never have cooties. They never start out having it, but if a girl touches you or kisses you on the cheek, you're considered now to have cooties. So girls are the contaminated ones, and the boys are not. The next one is invasion, and this shows a type of control. Usually boys see girls' activities as interruptible. So for instance, if girls at the playground are playing hopscotch and the boys are playing soccer, boys will generally come over and invade the hopscotch game, whereas girls are not as likely to go invade the soccer game. There are many speculations as to why this happens. One instance could be boys' activities are seen as more important than girls, or girls are just more aware of this respect that involves with invasion, but we're not quite exactly sure. Then there's cross-gender chasing, and this has a very different context than same-sex chasing. So when usually boys chase girls, there's a stigma that the boys like the girls, or there's some underlying issues. And same thing when girls chase the boys, she either likes him, or it can't just be a normal game of chase anymore, like it is with the same-sex chasing. And then there's contests. So a lot in schools, this border work, because it creates the girls versus boys, and it shows what gender is inferior or superior to the other, even with the teachers and the faculty not even realizing that this border work already kind of exists. So by doing this, it just strengthens the separation between the two groups, which in plays with the rest of the border works or socialization processes. So here are some sources, but in the end, gender socialization really influences how a child grows up and what occupations they have, how they socialize with other children, how they interact with different genders. And these differences when growing up may seem little, but as they get older, it is harder to integrate and for a boy to do certain activities. And it creates a lot of instances of bullying and ridicule when going and interacting with activities that other genders do.